tonight we're going to be talking about making artwork with oil pastels. So you probably are familiar with oil paint, which is paint that comes in a tube, right? And it uses different types of oils in order to create the oil paint that to hold or bind the pigment together. And so oftentimes you'll have linseed oil, which is what's called a drying oil. That means that as the painting cures, then the oil paint oil paint doesn't um, evaporate. There isn't water in it, there's oil in it. And the oil cures, it doesn't evaporate. And so that's the difference between painting with oil paint and painting with acrylic paints. Now, oil paints um, and acrylic paints use the same pigments. So you can get a yellow ochre in oil paint and you can get a yellow ochre in acrylic paint. The difference is the acrylic paint is water-based and it uses a polymer acrylic binder. If you are getting a yellow ochre in oil paint, they're using linseed oil, poppy oil, sunflower oil, some sort of natural oil in order to suspend those pigments, that same yellow ochre pigment. With oil pastels, and let me show you an oil pastel so you know what I'm talking about. This is an oil pastel. Let me grab one out of here. So oil pastels come in sticks similar to dry pastels, or what's normally you hear soft pastels. Soft pastels are a dry medium and it's a chalk that's mixed together with the pigments. Here you've got the pigments mixed together with a different kind of oil and then formed into these sticks. So where oil paint comes out and it's creamy like a hand cream consistency, oil pastels have the same pigments in them, but they're in a stick form instead of being in a tube creamy form. And I'm going to show you a few of the artworks that I did in preparation for the workshop using oil pastels. And then we'll talk about some different brands of oil pastels, and we'll actually make some artworks with those oil pastels. So this is a delicious, cool drink of lemonade or limeade. And this is made on a toned paper. So instead of putting it on white paper, I've put it on a paper that has a different color in the backgrounds to really make those blues and yellows pop off of there. So that is done with oil pastels. Then this one is also on toned paper. There we go, right there. And it's cotton balls. And then the toned paper, but what I want you to notice about them, if I get them up really closely, the nice thing about oil pastel is it goes down on your surface in a pretty thick application, so you can scratch back into it. And that's what I did to give these cotton balls a little more texture, is I scratched back into them, and I'm going to show you some of the tools that we use to do that. Then also, when I have leftover acrylic paint, I like to put that leftover acrylic paint onto watercolor paper because this watercolor paper is nice and stiff. And then this is an acrylic paint background, and this is an oil pastel that I made on top of it. Isn't that fun? So that's a protea flower there. And it's just on a postcard, watercolor postcard, and there's acrylic paint in the background. So super easy to put these right over top of acrylic paints. Now this is a much thicker application. And so this is, let's see, so you can get it in the whole picture. It's a wave and a landscape in the background with some clouds. But what I want you to notice about it is I actually used a palette knife with these oil pastels and applied the foam for the wave and applied the clouds up here with a palette knife in order to get extra texture out of the oil pastels. So some people actually will use some um, oil paint thinners to thin down the oil pastel paints and use them that way on a brush. But hey, if I wanted to do that, I would just get out a tube of oil paint because goodness knows in my studio, I have acrylics, I have oils, I have soft pastels, I have oil pastels. I have all kinds of stuff. And so if I wanted to oil paint, I would get out an oil paint. But some people will use that oil paint thinner and take a little bit of the color off of one of the oil pastel sticks and create a wash for the background of their paper. And then wait. You need to wait an hour or two for that to dry, but then that tints the background of the paper. And then you can do your painting over top of that tinted background, similar to what I did here, but in this case, it was acrylic paint instead of using an oil pastel to create that background. So there is the occasion where some people who work with oil pastels also use oil paint mediums. But for the most part, I like to just grab the sticks of the oil pastels and go right to the paper and just play and have fun. Hey there, Tragic Arts and Oddities. Welcome in and thanks for the hearts, everybody. I appreciate it over on Whatnot. I'm just looking on YouTube to see if there are any more questions. Nope. Okay, good. So those are some of the artworks that I made in preparation for this workshop. Now let me see. I have a lovely book. I've done a lot of research online as well as there is a particular book by an artist that I love that I have all of her other books. And this one is called Oil Pastel Masterpieces in 4 Easy Steps. And this artist is Anna uh, Kolodayich. So what I love is that this is a new book. I think, did this just come out this year? I think it's pretty recent. Okay, 2022 is the copyright on it. But I have her watercolor masterpieces in 4 Easy Steps and gouache, which is an opaque watercolor in 4 Easy Steps as well. And I have to tell you, her books, especially if you're just starting out with a particular medium, watercolor, gouache, or oil pastel, I highly recommend her books because she really breaks down the process of creating the artwork into nice, simple steps. And we're actually going to do one of her paintings from in here. I think we're going to do the pistachio ice cream, I think. That's what I had in mind anyway, which looked fabulous in here. But I can't recommend her books enough. And actually, this piece, which is the Protea design, this piece, which is the cotton balls design, and this piece, which is the lemon or limeade, were all made from her book. So if and I will have a link to that book in the description of the video on YouTube by tomorrow after the workshop. I go back in and I'll add those links into the description of the video. So I'll be sure, excuse me, I'll be sure to put that. I have her watercolor book. Yes, amazing and easy to follow, right? I know that's what I love about it is I feel confident if she has a book like this with the 4 Easy Steps and it's in a particular medium that I want to get to know better, then I know I have the confidence in knowing that I can follow along the steps with her book and I'm going to gain the confidence of working with the medium. So, yes, thank you for that comment. I appreciate it because I, I can't recommend these books enough. These are amazing books. So again, the author is Anna Kolodayich. And there it is. There's the spelling of it. So you can take a picture of it if you need to. But as I said, on my YouTube video, when this is over, I will put a link to the book in the description of the video. Okay. So that don't worry, you will be able to find it. Plus, after I do my workshops, usually around Monday, Tuesday, I'm sorry, Tuesday, Wednesday, I post an article on my blog on my website. And it is the different workshops that I've done. So you can pop into there in order to watch the workshop, but also I will have all the links in the articles as well. So you can always look back through my blog posts from previous workshops and see what else I've taught and see what the links are to get the books and to get the products that are used for the various workshops. All right. Love this book. Love, 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 love. Got me inspired to share with you about oil pastels tonight. Actually, on Christmas Day, I had a guest, one of my neighbors over who also loves oil. That's like her medium of choice is oil pastels. And I've used oil pastels before, but I haven't felt like I mastered it, right? And so she was explaining about it and she was so excited. I said, "Ooh, let me get some paper and I'll get my oil pastels out and we'll that way we can play, right?" And so that's what we did on Christmas Day. We were playing with oil pastels, and I did all of these artwork subsequent to that. And I told her how much she inspired me. So it really is true that our excitement about a particular medium can really inspire other people to be excited about it too. Because she really got me going. Let's talk about the different kinds of oil pastels that I'm going to be showing you when we go over top of the table to actually do the a project. Okay, and that is. I find just like with soft pastels that you want to start with a harder oil pastel. So different pastels, whether they're oil pastels or soft, dry pastels, they'll have different hardnesses. And so a lot of times it won't even tell you on the package whether it's hard or not. What I recommend you do is you look at other YouTube videos for the brands that you're interested in and hear what other people have to say about the hardness of that particular oil pastel because the different ones, well, the harder ones will not work over top of the softer ones. You want to start with a harder oil pastel. And that's true also of your dry pastels. I always start with the harder ones first to lay down just my sketch, and then I start coming in with my softer ones. So in this case, for what we're going to be working with tonight, I would be starting with the Pentel Arts. Now, this is a set of 36, and I had shown you before. Here's what they look like in the package. Yummy, yummy colors, but they're hard. They are an oil pastel, but they tend to be a little harder, which is good when you want to get a good line. It's helpful to have a pastel that's a little bit harder, right? Because the soft ones are just generally so creamy. That it's hard to get a straight line with a creamy one. So these are so nice. Now you'll notice they are a little bit small in size. They're not big, so but they're a good starter set. And you can do complete artworks using just these Pentel. And I'm going to show you this one, which was the cotton balls was using only the Pentel set. So it is possible for you to get one set and begin to explore and experiment with it. And you will be able to make artwork with the harder set by itself. However, when I'm doing pastels, I like to layer them. Now, somebody asked me when I've taught about soft pastels before here on Whatnot and YouTube, they've said, well, how many layers do you put on of your the dry pastels? And on dry pastels, I can tell you, I go up to between 15 and 20 layers. You can really layer soft, dry pastels. But I've found that when it comes to oil pastels, that is not true. Oil pastels go down onto your surface in a thicker application. That's one of the beautiful things about them is they're so like rich and creamy and thick, and they're beautiful. So they give you a kind of a, what is that called? Impasto almost surface. They give you like a crinkly surface, and I love that about them. But because of that, I'm only able to get about 3 layers, maybe 4 layers out of an oil pastel. So it's a different medium. It works differently. And so you want to consider that when you're working with them. Now, this would be my first layer, and I'll be showing you that when we get into doing our project, right? Now, actually, I lied. I have a little trick for you right here. And that is, I usually start with something called a wax crayon. So these are not your kids' crayons, all right? These are artist grade crayons, and they're by a company called Caran d'Ache. So this is their logo, Caran d'Ache. And these are crayons, and they say on them, they call them wax oil pastel. So yes, they are oil pastels, but they're not creamy and they don't you it's very difficult to blend them. They are hard. And these are perfect for sketching, and that's what I use these for. So these are the harder version of a pastel. Um, they're not used for smudging, they're simply used for drawing lines and maybe doing your outlines. So before you would get involved with this type. So ultimately, this wax oil pastel from Caran d'Ache, these are called Neocolor ones. These are the hardest and they don't smudge. And then these are the next hardest or softest, I should say, in the scale. They're still relatively hard. They still give you good clean line. You don't have to have these to do your sketching. You can use just the Pentel to do your sketching. I just find if I want to do light sketching, and so the lines are, for instance, this piece right here, let me pick that up, right here, the blue lines on the outside and the outline of the straw and the outline of the everything that is here that had an outline, I used these to make the outlines, these hard wax pastels, wax oil pastels, they call them. But those are the first ones that I use. And then the Pentel is the second one. Now I could stop right there at the Pentel because they do have some nice creaminess to them. They're not super creamy, but I could just stop there, which is what I did with this one. I just used the Pentel. But if you want to get a little more soft, the next level of softness, then this is a brand called Van Gogh. And they're by Royal Talons. And you'll notice that they're a little thicker, they're a little bigger than the Pentel. So the Pentel were small and an excellent set if you want to start out. Get a fresh set. Um, if you've had a set or your children have had a set and they've been sitting around for a couple of years, what happens is the wax in here or the what makes it stiff starts to dry up. And so that will cause them to not be as creamy as you need. So if you have an old set, I would suggest in order to be successful that you get yourself a fresh set, even if it's the Pentel, which are very economical. But this is the Van Gogh. And oh, sorry, I was holding it upside down. There you go. It's a fatter stick, so it has a lot more paint, a lot more oil pastel to go. It is still, I would call it a medium stiffness. So you can still outline with it. This is an excellent starter set of 24, and they call them their super fine oil pastels. And so that's a good starting set as well. Let me show you the packaging again right there. Van Gogh. So that would be my next softest set. Then Neo Color, I'm sorry, the Caran d'Ache that I showed you, the hard crayons. Caran d'Ache also makes a regular stick oil pastel. So this is their oil, their wax oil pastel crayons, which are the hardest. And then they do make a stick. So I've just collected the sticks throughout the years. I didn't buy a whole box of the stick, but here is an example right here, and it says Neo Pastel on it. See that? Neo Pastel. So this I would consider to be the next softest after Van Gogh, or it may actually be right about the same softness as Van Gogh. Okay, so it's that middle soft. And here you can see, see how it's putting some pigment out on your hand. A lot of times if somebody's standing in front of the oil pastels, they'll do this in the store to test them to see if color comes off. If color doesn't come off, that means that they're very much on the hard side of the spectrum. And you might not want that. Although, if I take one of these, this is also the Caran d'Ache, but this is the wax crayon. So let's take one of these in the blue and let me put that on my hand. And you can see it barely puts anything on there. It's very light, which is perfect, like I said, for if you're going to be sketching, perfect for that. So you can outline your artwork before you go in with the oil pastel. And so Caran d'Ache, they have this gorgeous set of 72 of the Neo Pastel. And these are about the same, they might be slightly smaller than the Van Gogh, but I also think they're a little bit longer. Beautiful pastels, Neo color pastels. And then the softest ones that I've used are the Sennelier. It's called Sennelier. And here's what the box looks like. So for Sennelier oil pastels, and actually this box is empty because what I do is I like to take plastic containers like this, and then I sort out my pastels. I do this with my soft chalk pastels as well as these oil pastels, and I separate them into color families in these plastic containers. So they're the perfect way to store the pastels. And then I've got, for instance, here's a Neo pastel in green. And then here's a Sennelier in sort of a teal green as well. So I've got my color families together, and this one has the Neo Pastel. This box has the Neo Pastel and the Sennelier in it. And the reason that I did that is that I like to start out if I'm going to take this box somewhere with me, it's all that I need in order to do the some oil pastel painting. I would use the Neo Pastel as the first layer and the outlining, and then I would go back and I would use the super soft Sennelier on top to give me my bold, thick richness. Now, something that's really fun with the Sennelier is they don't just come in those little small sort of bullet tip sizes. They also come in these sizes. Huge. So if you do a lot of oil pastel work and you want to work bigger, some artists just prefer to work bigger. They don't want to work on a little piece of paper. They want to work on something that's a larger size. Then you can cover more area with a big Tonkin oil pastel like this. And I have a whole collection of them that I keep in a container like this. Now, my secret is that when I go to a store like a Jerry's Artorama or a specialty store that specializes in art supplies, usually they'll have an area in their store for their damaged or their older inventory that they're trying to get rid of, right? Even a Michael's store has something like that. So I always go there and I look, and oftentimes I will find items like this for a really good price because maybe it got dented or they had used it for a demo and now they're just clearing it out. But that is a big piece of oil pastel, yumminess right there that I didn't pay full price for, which is fabulous. Let me see if I take this and I use it on my hand, if you can see like how creamy that is. Well, this one is an iridescent and it's just, oh, yes. I like to use the iridescence usually as my final layer to add some excitement in my artwork. And then another thing that not just Sennelier, but other oil pastel companies will have as well is something called a blender. So this is a blender stick from Sennelier. That means it's the oil pastel medium with no color in it. And you can use that to what I do, well, you can either use it right on your surface to help give more transparency or translucency to your oil pastels, or you can also use it. I cut some of it off with my palette knife. So I use a palette knife with it, cut some of it off. That's why you'll see the tip of it has some cuts on it. And then I use that to blend in with other colors in order to get that thick impasto kind of look. So impasto is just a thick application of your paint, no matter what kind of paint it is. But these really lend themselves to that kind of work. Now, what kind of paper would we use to put these on? I did show you before um, this piece, and it is on a white paper. And you can basically use almost any paper with oil pastels. You just have to be sure that the paper is acid free. And the reason that I say that is oil pastels have oil in them, and oil is infamous for eating up a surface if the surface is not like pH balanced, acid free, all that kind of stuff. And so that's why I tend to use professional artist papers with my uh, any of painting that I do, because then I know that those papers are designed for art supplies. You can actually buy from Arche or Arches a paper pad that is for oil paint. And so you would be able to use those with these oil pastels as well. But you don't have to get that fancy. Just I recommend that you go with good quality paper. So Canson makes beautiful artist papers. This one is their Bristol Smooth. So that means the surface of the paper is smooth, but it's also got a nice thickness to it. When I pick up the paper here, it's got beautiful thickness. The nice thing about oil pastel is that because it has oil in it, it's very malleable. So you see there, but this is acid-free paper. And so I was able to build up my texture right on there. Now, some people prefer paper that has a little more texture to it because this Bristol paper is smooth. It's like got a beautiful smooth surface to it. Great um, paper to work on for any kind of drawing or just, I love Bristol paper. But the other paper that I use the most besides Bristol paper is that I use the Hanson again XL watercolor paper. So this is acid free, 140 pounds. So it's a little bit heavier than that Bristol. And it has some texture to the surface. So instead of the surface being smooth, the surface is a little bit textured. And some people actually prefer that. They prefer a paper with texture to a paper that's smooth. It just, you'll have to experiment with it and see what you like the best. Then one of my favorite papers, because it comes in a massive pad, it comes with 150 pages, and it's just a good all-around studio paper, is this Fabriano mixed media. So it is 108 pounds. It says it's for dry and wet techniques. This happens to be a 9 by 12. It's got a nice gum binding on it, so it's easy to tear the sheets off. I would call this a medium weight paper. So if you're learning a particular medium, whether you're learning oil pastel or any others, then this is a great all-around paper to do your experimentations on. And like I said, it's reasonably priced because you get 150 sheets in the pack. It's awesome. Love that paper. That to me, that's a studio staple. I always have that in my studio because it's the perfect pad to grab and sketch out designs, or put some watercolor paint on it, or some acrylic on it. It's just a beautiful all around paper, but you can also do this oil pastel on top of it. It is a smooth surface. Now I showed you the Canson XL watercolor paper here with texture. So the texture is called cold press. If it's a cold press paper, then it has texture. This is a Fabriano brand, but it is hot press. So instead of it being cold press, it's hot press. That means that they run the paper through hot rollers and it makes it smooth. So this is also a beautiful 140-pound paper, meaning it's got nice thickness to it, but it has a beautiful smooth surface to it. So if you prefer working on a smooth surface, this studio paper from Fabriano, the hot press watercolor, it's also a great all-around paper. Now, if we move into more of the specialty papers for pastels, you can use this kind of paper from Canson again, and it is a Canson pastel paper. But what I want you to know about the Canson pastel paper, and it'll work for both the dry pastels or the oil pastels. But the interesting thing is, and here, oh, let me see. I had some messing around to do. Let me find one that has color to it, because the nice thing about this pad is it has various colors. What you'll notice on this paper is that it has a texture to it. So that it'll grip either the dry or the oil pastel. Now, one side of the paper is smoother and one side of the paper is textured. And the interesting thing is that you can use either side of the paper. So if you want a tinted paper to experiment on, I highly recommend this paper pad, because now they also make, the Canson also makes a pastel paper in white, but it's the same thing. The cool thing is that it's got texture on the front side of the paper and it's more smooth on the back side of the paper. So this might be your perfect starter pad for working with oil pastel and then getting to know whether you prefer a textured surface or a smooth surface. Then the top of the line in the white papers like this is the Sennelier. So it's their own brand. Sennelier makes the oil pastels, but then they also make paper to go with the oil pastels. And this is an oil pastel pad. And the interesting thing about the oil pastel pad is that in between the pages, so here's one of my artworks in here, but in between the pages, you have what's called glassine. So a lot of people complain about not knowing how to store their oil pastel paintings, because if you don't spray it with a fixative to fix the paint, you can get bits of the paint coming off. So do you see the colors that are on the cellophane here? Right? Do you see that? Then that's because oil pastel, because it is a thicker medium, when it's between the pages like this, it can get squished and then it gets onto the previous page. Normally it would be on the back of this page. But if you get yourself a specific oil pastel pad, they put these glassine, it's called glassine. This is an acid-free museum type film in between the pages to protect your artwork. Also, if you were to do a larger artwork and then you wanted to protect it before you slide it into, say, one of those plastic sleeves that you would generally save your artwork in, before you do that, you want to put a layer of this glassine on top of it, not wax paper. Sometimes initially I will use wax paper, just like you have in the kitchen on a roll. Do I have one right here? Yes, normally I do have one right next to me. So that's just wax paper. But the thing is, you don't want to use this as a permanent solution for storage, just for something temporary until you put the glassine on it, because the glassine is museum quality, it is acid free, and it will preserve the artwork. So before I put the artwork into the plastic sleeve, I put some glassine over it. So here is, you can buy glassine in sheets, but this is how I like to buy it. This is also Canson, and I buy it in a roll. So it's a big old roll. You see that big roll right there? And I'll be sure to link this in the YouTube video description. It's 36 inches wide, so that's 3 feet wide and 10 yards on here. So if I work in a larger size, um, and this also works for dry pastels, as it'll actually go on any of your artwork to protect the artwork until such time as you can put it in a frame. As a matter of fact, one of my artworks here, that's a dry pastel. It's funny because this is from 2017, and you see the colors in this artwork. And then this is just from like 2 years ago, and you see the colors in this artwork. So yeah, I tend to love the bright colors like that. But this artwork that's done on paper, it's actually done on some of this paper here, a pastel type paper. And if you'll notice, the colors aren't bright because it's behind a piece of glassine. It's wrapped in glassine and then put in this storage bag right here. So that's how you would preserve your artwork when you're putting away your um, oil pastels. But what I love about this pad from Sennelier, even though it's pricey, you can see that you can store your artworks right in here for a long period of time. If you sell your art, you could list them for sale on your art online. And then when it sells, you can simply cut it out of the notebook and put it behind a mat. And it's ready to go. But it's great to store it like this. Actually, there's another nice piece here too that has uses something called sgraffito. So let me pull that one up. So again, I've got the glassine on the front, and then I have this piece of artwork underneath it. There it is. The cool thing about, notice the texture in there. Wow. So the cool thing about oil pastel is you can put a layer of oil pastel down. So I did yellow, I did pink, I did more yellow. And then when this was, I let it set overnight, the base colors, and I used a harder oil pastel to do that so that they would grip onto the paper. And then I came back with a creamy oil pastel on top and covered the whole thing on top with this kind of a ruby burgundy red color. And then I went back with a scraping tool. So in this case, you can use a toothpick, you can use a needle tool like this. Heck, if you have a little screwdriver around, you can use that. You just need something that you can scrape into the surface with. And when you scrape into the surface, the color that's attached to the paper on the bottom will show up. So isn't that fun? It's kind of like the kids scratch art. It's similar in concept to that, that there's colors back behind there. And when you scratch off the surface, the difference being that I get to choose the colors that I put into my artwork before I do this graffito on top. Fun, right? Okay, so let's go ahead. I have a couple more kinds of paper to show you. Here we go. Let's hold that up. But again, that's the Sennelier oil pastel paper. Fabulous. Fabulous if you want to splurge for yourself. Then this is a toned paper. toned gray and tan. So there are 4 different colors in this pad, and there are 40 sheets. So I discovered this on paper, and I thought, ooh, what a perfect way to have paper for experimenting on, and it's not very expensive. So this paper works for oil pastels, and it works for dry pastels as well. So that's what this was done on, and this was done on. They were both done on this smooth paper that is, and it even says right on it, pastel. By that, they mean soft pastel, oil pastel, colored pencil, charcoal, and pencil drawings. So this one right here is fabulous, and I will make sure to put a link to it in the description of the video. And then this is a wonderful, this company that makes this is called Claire Fontaine. And Claire Fontaine is famous for their pastel papers, but they also in the last couple of years came out with their paint on mixed media paper. And the cool thing is they make it in black. And the black is black all the way through the paper. So if you cut the paper, it doesn't have a white core or anything. It's just all black. And so the iridescent paints and the lighter color oil pastels show up beautifully on this dark paper. And I love it. I love this Clairefontaine paper. It has a nice weight to it. Does it say? It says 250 GSM, which is somewhere around 115 pounds or so. But it is nice and thick. Perfect. It is pH neutral and all that kind of stuff. Perfect for doing your artwork on and then selling the artwork if you want to. And that was the concept that I used here, is a dark background with some lighter colors on top. And then you can take your own paper. So I use watercolor paper. And whenever I have leftover paint, if I'm painting with acrylic paints, like for instance, this is some of the Blick Studio acrylics, and I've done a bunch of color mixing and I'm finished color mixing, then I use a palette knife and I pick up that leftover paint and I just slather it onto like this is postcards, but watercolor postcard paper. And here's another one. This is a handmade paper. So I just put the colors on it. Now, once the colors are on there, you can put your oil pastel right on top. So that's what I did here. But you'll find that acrylic paint tends to be kind of smooth. So that's great if you only want to put 1 or 2 layers on. If you want to go a little more thickly and apply thicker paint layers, then you're going to want to have a little more texture in the surface. And so you can coat the top of your acrylic painting with something called clear gesso. So this is just acrylic paint that has a matting agent in it that gives it some texture. So it's the Liquitex Clear Gesso. And I love that because it makes the surface a little bit gritty. So here, now this surface is nice and gritty. This one right here has a beautiful color, right? And that's a clear gesso, but it gives you a nice toothy surface to it so that it will accept more of the oil pastel because it'll stick to it better if you have a toothy surface. And so I like to prepare my own papers, which is what I had done here, and then do my painting on top of my own paper background. So that's what I have these for here. Um, Tools wise, I already mentioned the palette knife to you, just some simple palette knives. The needle tool, I use the needle tool and the palette knives for several different techniques while I'm doing the painting. So I'll show you as we go along. Then you're also going to want, a lot of people smudge with their fingers. It gets very dirty when you do that. But I mean, part of painting is being tactile and like getting in there and really making it a whole body sport, right? But If you don't want to get your fingers dirty, then, I mean, they're going to get dirty. Okay. If you're working with oil pastels, your fingers are going to get dirty, but you can minimize the smudging part of it by using a blending stump. So this is just a paper stump. It's used for a lot of dry media, like if you wanted to blend oil pastels, soft pastels, charcoal, graphite pencil. These are just a studio staple, in my opinion. And then there's one last thing that you don't have to have it. I mean, you're going to need paper towels, but besides that, this is a gripper. So there are different brands. This one happens to be the Lyra brand, but you see how the top of it opens like this, and you can put a stick in there. So if you prefer to have a little longer, like let's say if your stick's getting short, you can put the end of the stick in here to hold it, and then that will give you more length to it to be able to do what you wanted to do with that stick. It helps you to be able to use your shorter sticks for longer. Okay. Because sometimes when you're trying to hold that little stick, it can be difficult. But just so you know, who knew there's an extender you can use to put them in. Okay. So that's the description of the artworks and the surfaces and the oil pastels. Let's go over top of the table. Okay. So we're going to start out. I'm just going to show you a few basic techniques to start in working with oil pastels, and then we're going to paint something. So let's start with let's use the Van Gogh because they're kind of a middle of the road oil pastel. They're not too hard and they're not too soft. Okay. So we're going to start out with those just to show you a few techniques. Let's talk about just some things in general with oil pastels. Um, most oil pastels, what color? They're all so beautiful. Let's use this one, which is like a vermilion color. So most of them will say on them, there'll be a number. So this one actually has a number on it. It says 311.5. So that is their catalog number for this color. It's down here to 311.5. Um, and then this one happens to be from a brand that understands about light fastness. So they actually have a light fast rating right on it. Your lesser expensive oil pastels will not have a light fastness rating on them, okay? Um, but your artist grade will have a light fastness rating on them. And so this one is a 3 stars. You have to find out from the manufacturer what the stars mean because every manufacturer, it means a little something different. So for instance, with the Pebeo folks, whom I work with a lot, 3 stars is the top, meaning it's excellent light fastness and it'll last up to 100 years without fading. But some companies use a 5-star rating system, and some people just use words like excellent, good, that kind of thing. So it just depends on the company. And for Van Gogh, I don't know whether whether it's a 3-star max or a 5-star max. Let's see if we look at a couple of these other ones, 3 stars. This one right here is 3 stars. So a lot of these are 3 stars. I know that Royal Talons and this Van Gogh brand are an excellent brand. So I suspect these are very light fast, meaning you can be confident using them and selling your artwork and it won't fade all over the place. That's always no good when the person comes back to you 2 years later and goes, huh, those pinks don't look pink anymore. They look white. It's like, oopsies. That's when you have a color that has low light fastness. Let's look at this one because oftentimes purples have a low light fastness. Nope, this one's a 3 as well. So, wow. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Let me see this one. This is the set of 24. And this one has a 3-star light fastness too. So, excellent set. All right, let's put down, this is a smooth paper, bear in mind. So let's put down, you can see you get a nice smooth line with that. Now, What a lot of people do is they immediately go in with their finger or they immediately go in with a stump and then they smooth it to see how well it smooths out. Because some people don't like the look in their artwork of that broken line, the line that has a little variation to it. They want something really smooth. So this one is nice and creamy, and you can see how it smooths the line out beautifully, right? Now, besides doing lines, lines and curves, another great way to use these is to make dots like this. So I often find when I'm working with pastels, because they're in your hand like this, that um, it can be effective when your paper tooth is full and it won't accept more stroking on top. You can go in with dots and you can often get more color to deposit by using dots. Now, there's also a painting technique called pointillism, where you build your whole painting with dots. Not very many people have the patience for that, but let's lighten this up a little bit by taking some yellow. And then I can go in and I can put dots of yellow in here as well. And then that begins to build a more orange color scheme. And so this is doing dots. So just remember that if the tooth of your paper gets full and you try to make a line and the line's not working, move to dotting, and the oil pastel tends to come off of the stick nicely and deposit with dots. Oftentimes that's what I have to do at the end once I've my page has too much oil pastel on it. I need to move into dots as my last resort, but some people will start with the dots. And then once the dots are there, you can again use your finger or you can use a blending stump and you can blend the colors together like this. So some people like the look of the sharpness of the lines and the dots. Other people want to blend in order to have a softer look to the colors, but definitely a blending stump. And I mean, if you don't have a blending stump, these are cheap, your digits, your 10 digits, but I love the blending stumps. Okay, let's see. Now, cross hatching, this is similar to when you're working with pencils, right? So these happen to come with a flat top. The senneliers that I showed you earlier come with a bullet top. So let me show you that. So see how this one has like a bullet top to it? And so what I find is that if you want to make lines, I find that these ones that are flat on the top work better because you're working on the edges of that flat plane like this. So if I wanted to do cross hatching of some sort, I'm actually, as I'm cross hatching, I'm turning. So I'm turning this so that I'm getting different edges here in order for me to get those lines. So you're going to find sometimes you have to turn as you're working with your pastel. See, it's a habit. I'm literally turning it as I'm using it here without even thinking because it's what I always do. So I practice it. I've practiced it so much that it's second nature right now. Now, if you have the sennelier, which has the bullet tip to it like this, but you want to do line work like that, you can simply peel the paper. The sennelier has little notches here, and you can pull the paper like this, and you can pull that bit off. And now you've got a flat surface with an edge so that I can come in here and I can do lines with this edge because that bullet tip doesn't always give you the lines that you desire. But just realize that you can use both ends of your stick. Now, if both ends of your stick are worn down, what do? You break it. So do not be afraid to just snap it, and then you'll have a flat surface again, and you'll have a sharp edge, and you can use that sharp edge. So, some people, when they first get their sets, they break their favorite colors because then that way they have more edges that they can work from in order to do the types of techniques that they like to do. Okay, so realize that that is an option, is to break them. All right, let's go to blending. So what two colors do I want to blend together? I want to blend a blue and a yellow because they make what? When they meet in the middle, they make a green, right? From basic color theory. Ooh, let's do this really pretty one that's kind of a teal color. What does it say it is? It says it is turquoise blue. Okay, so we're gonna put some turquoise blue here, and it's pretty creamy. Pretty creamy. It's going down nicely. Okay, and then we're gonna put some yellow. Geez, both sides of this yellow are dirty. So if they're dirty, just you need to have a paper towel around so that you can clean them as you're working. That's what I do anyway. You see now that's more clean. Okay, so now I'm gonna just go flat like this to deposit a bunch of color here. Oh, so pretty. So some people will test this with their finger and go back and forth here and see if we can get a nice green blend, which of course we do. Oh, it's gorgeous. Or of course you can use your blending stuff. Now this side has red on it. So normally I work with like reds and yellows on one end, like my oranges. And then on the other end, I'll work with the blues and greens. But as you can see, my dog ate this one. Yeah. So it's this end is not in very good condition. Let's just use a different one. Oopsies, I just ordered more stumps today because, yeah, some of my stumps got eaten. So sometimes you can use the stump in order to do blending, or I literally like to blend with the tips. So here I've got my turquoise on there. Do not be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't treat these as precious. All right, just dive right in and have fun. So now I'm going to take the yellow and I'm literally going to mix the yellow and the blue right on the surface right there. Oh, look at that green. Stunning. Just what I thought because I'm using a light blue. Beautiful green. And now you can see some green residual on there, but it doesn't matter. Why? Because I have a paper towel right here and I'm just going to wipe it right off. And so now the yellow is ready for my next yellow adventure, right? That's how I try to keep them clean. But here, this is mixing right on the surface. Now, sometimes you don't want to mix on the surface. Sometimes you want to mix and then apply the color. Because this is a limited color palette. I only have 24 colors in here. But you can use, let me use this one. You can use the edge of a palette knife and you can literally pick up the color like this on your palette knife. On the smooth paper, this works well. And now I've got green on the edge of the palette knife, and then I can go into my painting and I can apply that green where I want it. Okay, so you can mix your colors. What I do is I usually have a separate sheet of paper next to me when I'm working. And that way, if I want to do color mixes, I can do the color mixes over on that other sheet of paper and then pick it up with a palette knife and just bring it right in. Now, this is an impasto way of painting, meaning it's relatively thick. It's not the same experience as working right off of the end of a stick, right? But it's just another thing to add to your repertoire of techniques. Now, once I have some color down on here, so let me put a little bit more of, let's see, maybe a dramatic color like this blue. So let me just put some of this blue out on the paper like this. Let's move it over so it's more toward the center for you. Okay. There we go. Lovely. Beautiful. That looks like an ultramarine blue or something like that. Now, what I want to do is I want to scratch into it. So if y'all watch Black Bean, he's an oil pastel artist on, well, he's an artist in general, but his the medium that he uses the most is oil pastel. And he loves to do the scratches. He scratches into his work. So like I said, it's called sgraffito. You can use the back of a sharp um, paintbrush. This is a needle tool. This is an old uh, screwdriver. So if I want thin lines, I'll use a toothpick or a needle tool. So let's do some like cross hatching on there. You just have to be careful not to press too hard because you don't want to make, you don't want to go through your paper. And, but here I'm able to get some incredible, incredible texture there. Do you see that? Oh, yes. And that is using the needle tool or a toothpick. And here you can get broader lines. If you have other tools like this, you can actually scrape back a broader line if you have a broader tool. So there, you see that? Yes. So I was able to scrape off a lot more. You're going to want to have a paper towel handy because you're going to end up with little bits. That's the thing. When you're working with oil pastel, even the sennelier, which is very soft, you can still get bits floating around, and you don't want your bits to get into other parts of your painting and ruin that part of beautiful color that you've already made. So what I do is I use my palette knife and gently scrape across the surface, and I find it will pick up those little bits. Now, if the bits don't want to come up, just huff on it, meaning you go like this, and you get a little bit of moisture on there, and that helps make those bits stick to the bottom of your um, palette knife. And then you're able to pick those bits up and put them in the into your paper towel like that. So that's how I manage the bits as they start developing, because the more layers you put on, the more bits you're going to throw off. And that's what I do to get the bits off. Just come in here and pick them up. You can also take this over to your trash bin and do this, and that will also help to get some of those off of there. Okay, so those are just some basic techniques. Ooh, let's see if, I'm not sure if this is the right size for this or not. Let's see if these fit in here. Nope, these are too big. So that will work with the Pentel. So here are the Pentel oil pastels. Woo. Okay, so if I want to color here, then let's see if these will fit inside here. Yes. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Huh. It's not gripping it. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what this was designed for then. This one is not designed for these. You'll have to use a different kind of gripper. You'll have to see if any of these companies have a gripper for them. Oftentimes, the manufacturer of oil pastels or soft pastels or graphite pencils will have grippers that go with the size of their items there. Oh, also, one last thing, if you, this is just a, an old card. I keep old cards from hotel rooms and stuff like that. So if you have an area that you want to scrape back down, you use the edge of a hard card like this, and you can go in and you can scrape a bunch of the color off like that. Now notice the color has remained there, but now it's smooth on top. So that will allow me to have this color in the background on the paper and put another color on top like this. And then, of course, when I scratch back into it, that green will still be there because uh, it went into the surface of the paper. So let's scrape some of this. Oops. So there's some green in the background there. All right. So that is one effect to be able to get that sgraffito going, but you can just scrape off large areas. You use this, or you can use a butter knife or something that's not serrated. You can use this to pick it up. There you go. Right. And that's Black Bean. Often he'll do part of his work and then he goes, "Ah, I don't like that." And then he'll scrape it off and then he'll start over again. Oh my gosh. And of course, the rest of us are going, "What are you doing? I thought that looked awesome." But you know, us artists, we want it our way, right? We want it to look the way we want it to look. Oh, one more thing, the blender I was telling you about. So you can use the blender right on the surface like this to thin out the transparency of your oil pastel. Or I had mentioned before, using a palette knife, you can actually use a palette knife with this to get more volume going. So if I go like this, for instance, it's what I use when I make clouds. So I lay down some of the blender, and then let's say I take some of the white here. And I'm going to have to tear this just a little bit so I get more white. But it could be white or it could be any other color. And then I'll just I'll take some of this off. Boop. What I find is with my dryer, so the Pentel is a drier oil pastel, right? So in order to get the fluffiness of the clouds, this is too dry and too brittle when I put it on the surface. So what I have to do is I have to combine it. I don't know if you can see that. You see how it's all brittle right there and it's almost a powder. So in order to make it creamy again, I use the Sennelier blender because the Sennelier is the softest one, right? So I take the Sennelier blender and I use the palette knife and I blend it in with the white. In this case, I'm blending it in with a little bit of white and a little bit of blue so I can kind of get some sky going. There you go. So there's like a light blue cloud right there. And that's how I can take the drier pastels. Just get yourself one of these Sennelier blenders. It doesn't have to be the big size, it can be a small one. But a lot of brands also will sell a blender to go with their pastels. Oh, that is beautiful. And now that's creamy. And now if I wanted to make a cloud, I've got it on the back of my palette knife and I could come onto my surface and build myself a cloud like this with that thick. So that's called impasto. That gives me a nice thick application on the top. I usually will use this technique on the top, not as a bottom layer. I use it as a top layer. And so now you've got a nice thick layer of oil pastel. And that is exactly what I did to create these clouds and these waves. Is I used this blender that's in my hand and I mixed it together with white and a little bit of blue. And then I created those thick textures on top. Okay. So that's the advantage of having a blender stick. You can use it in a couple of different ways. All right, let's paint something. Woohoo! Now what we're gonna do is I want to work from the book, the Oil Pastel Masterpieces. So what did I have? She has really cool landscapes and then on flora, lots of flowers and things. There's the protea that I did on the dark background. Oh, there it is. There it is. So this is foods, veggies, and more. So you see this right here. Oh my gosh, it's so yummy looking. So let's follow along with that one. and that is pistachio ice cream, right? So we're going to do a pistachio ice cream. I'm going to move the smooth paper out of the way. And what we're going to use for the pistachio ice cream is this purple background right here. So this is a paper background. It's a watercolor paper. And I put acrylic paint on it. And then I added the coat of clear gesso. So now it has nice texture to the surface of the paper here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you down closer so that, let me see. Yeah, I want you to be a little bit closer. Nice. So now you can see that a little bit closer. And what we're going to do, I'm going to start with my Caran d'Ache here. Now I could use a pencil for a sketch. Um, there's even like a white pencil like this or a white chalk pastel to do my sketch. Okay. As a matter of fact, let's do that because then it's a little bit easier to erase, right? So let's say we've got one thing of ice cream here. Oh my gosh, this pistachio ice cream is making me hungry. And then we've got another one here. And then we've got like sort of rounded right here. Oh, pistachio. And then we've got this coming down here. And then we've got this coming down here. And then it's sort of rounded at the bottom, right? Oh, okay. I'm looking and I'm like, yeah, I need it to come over this way just a little bit more. Okay. So that is our pistachio ice cream. This is just a white pencil. And now I like to do my initial layers using these kind of pencils. So I'm going to take a light brown. This is the Caran d'Ache wax, wax version of their oil pastels. So I'm going to do the brown down. Ooh, it looks like when she did hers, she did yellow right here. Okay. So we're going to start with the yellow crayon, Neocolor one. And we're just going to do this on the top of there. Nice. And so these crayons are, like I said, they're the driest. Perfect for doing your initial outlines. And then we also have right here, we have sort of a, this is the, where the cone was wrapped, right? Because it's like a waffle cone. And then we're going to do some of this right here. We're building the waffle. And I love these to do my initial design because they're in a crayon format. And so it makes it a little bit easier to hold it, right? There we go. And then we're going to do it this way. Let's see. She's got it going like this, like that. And then I'll do another one like that. And another one like that. There we are. And then over here, we've got a couple. Okay. So it's nice that you can use the crayon, the wax crayon, to do your initial drawing. And then here, let's take this green one. And I'm just going to use the green one on the outside here, just to create that outline in what they call the wax oil pastel. There we go. And then, oh, there's the top of it. Yummy, 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 yummy. And of course, at this point, you can adjust it a little bit if you want it to be bigger. Okay, so now we've got the basic outline from there. And then that right there is all I'm going to do with these. Now, I could go in, you can do whole paintings using these wax crayons, and some artists do. Hey, Florida Glass Girl, welcome in, welcome in. We're doing wax and oil pastels. These are a waxier or harder version of an oil pastel, and they're called Neocolor ones. They are not water soluble, so they will resist water. Um, and then I just use them for an outline. Now we're going to go into oil pastels, and we're going to start with the hardest one, which is called the Pentel Oil Pastel. Ah, let's get these back in their box here. Come on, you can do it. Okay, cool. I don't know why. They don't want to go back in there, but they will later. Okay, let's set those aside. And now we're going to start with the um, oil pastel. So I'm going to start with the green, like the bright green for the pistachio ice cream, right? Doesn't that pistachio ice cream? You know what? I'm actually going to put a little bit of yellow in there because this is a little bit too, I don't know, kind of looks like pistachio, right? But I'm just going to lay in a little bit of yellow because I want it to be that much lighter in certain areas. Okay, so there's a little bit of yellow. So it comes off pretty easily. And now I'm going to layer over top. Yeah, see, that makes it more pistachio looking. If I just do the green, you see how the green by itself is a little bit dark on that purple surface. So actually, I'm going to go back and put some more yellow. And that's only through experience. You kind of get the feel for that because we're working on a darker background, right? So the green will look darker than what's in my hand here. So I'm going to put the yellow on here. So we're actually using yellow as our first layer, and then we're going back over top of it with this yummy green. Okay, that's more pistachio-like now. Am I making you hungry? See, I love this surface where it's acrylic paint, but then I added some texture, a layer of texture to it with this Liquitex clear gesso. And boy, let me tell you, the it is taking this oil pastel beautifully. Hold on, my phone for some reason. Someone's trying to call me. Come on now. I am teaching a workshop. Enjoying a workshop together with you. You all. Okay, there we go. So we just laid in our pistachio. Nice. Fabulous. Now, I'm seeing that she has a little bit of, like she wants to show a little bit of the fact that this one right here is like on top. And, you know, when they scoop the ice cream out, right? It folds in on itself. So we're going to do a little bit of that there. I'm following along with her pictures. So see the pictures here? This is, yes, looks great with the second layer. Agreed. Florida Glass Girl, you weren't here earlier. This is the book that I'm working from. It's Oil Pastel Masterpieces in 4 Easy Steps. And that's by Anna Kolodayich. And wow, fabulous. I love all of her books. She has watercolor in 4 Easy Steps, gouache in 4 Easy Steps, and this one is oil pastel in 4 Easy Steps. Oh my gosh, I just love it. Let me move this up just a little bit so that you can see that and the book. Okay, so let me just do this just a little bit, just you know how ice cream. I'm just messing. All right. So now what we're going to do is she added to the ice cream, she added some highlights, some white. So let's do some white. Do we want white or just light? I'm not sure. Let's see here. I think we'll do the white. So I've got the white. Now, if you notice from the last time that you used it, there's some other colors on there. Just take your paper towel and I'm just twisting it in the paper towel and it's pulling the other colors off. So now I'm back to white. Okay. And now we're going to add some lightness to this. I'm telling you, if this was smooth paper, it wouldn't be going on the way that it's going on right now. This, I love paper with a little bit of texture to it. That's just my favorite. Okay, so let's just do this. And then she's doing this. I'm bringing that lightness to it. Okay, and then down here, I'm putting, now I showed earlier, as I work with it, I turn it because if my objective is to get lines and not just filling an area, I want to work with the corners of that top. And so can you see how the green is in three separate spots right there? That's because as I'm using it, I'm turning it. So it just becomes second nature, and it's what I do whenever I'm working with oil pastels and dry pastels as well. I turn them as I use them. Okay, let's get a little bit more here. Ooh. And then we'll put some of the lightness over here as well. Just have fun with it, you know? Okay, good. We've got a bunch of, oh, delicious looking nest there. Now I'm going to clean this because if I'm doing what I should be doing, I'm cleaning it each time. But I don't always clean it right after I'm done with it. If I'm in the throes of creation, oftentimes I just stick it back in. But there it is. Now it's relatively clean. And we're going to, let me see, we're going to put a little bit more of the darkness, but I'm going to go a little bit with this sort of olivey. Now, this is another piece of paper. And what I had mentioned earlier is you want to have like a piece of scrap paper nearby so that you can test out your color, or sometimes you want to flatten your color. And here I want to clean off the edges because there's a bunch of gunk on the edges. There we go. So now I'm ready, and I can come up in here and put, this one's kind of a gray green. And so I'm able to use it to create some shadows in there, right? Because that top one is going to throw a little bit of a shadow onto the bottom one. Now I can either use my finger for that blending, or I can use the blending stump for the blending. But this is just a simple, fun picture. And so I don't feel like I need the blending stump. I'm not trying to be precise. I'm just going to use my finger in there just a little bit. Let's put a little bit of this over here. And then we'll put a little bit of it over here like that. But this is a very inexpensive set, these Pentel oil pastels. But as you can see, you can still have a lot of fun with them. And it's an excellent way to get your fingers dirty, as it were, with pastels. Okay. Now I always have my paper towel close at hand. Let's add a little bit of this grayness down here where it's going to meet the waffle cone. Like I said, I want to go out and get some ice cream now. Florida Glass Girl, you just live up the road, right? Now it looks like it's a pistachio with um, bits in it, like maybe chocolate chips or something. So let's go ahead and get the chocolate chips. I'm going to use this one right here for the chocolate chips. And we're just sort of randomly. Now I'm pushing down and then making my dots. Okay. Pushing down and sort of lifting up. So there's some random chocolate. Oh, chocolate pistachio. What? Oh my goodness. Yeah, that looks incredibly yummy. Wow. I'm turning it again. You see the green all over there? So I'm having to turn it as I do it. All right, now I want to put a little bit darker chocolate toward the bottom. Darker. I'm darkening them a little bit because the ones on the bottom will be darker. right? Yummy. Okay. So now we've got our pistachio ice cream and let's work. Yeah, it looks yummy, right? Oh, now let's work on the cone, waffle cone at the bottom. So the majority of the waffle cone around this yellow is a kind of an earthy color like this. Oh, you know what? I think I'm going to go just a little bit lighter because I'm working on a dark background, right? If I weren't working on the dark background, I might not do that. So I'm essentially going to fill in these little blocks right here and leave the yellow, but I can always come back and correct the yellow, meaning use the yellow from in here. The yellow that I made the outline with was this yellow right here. Ooh, come here, you. This one. So it was the Neo Color 1, the hardest wax oil pastel. Okay. These don't blend. They just give you your outlines where these Pentels can blend if I wanted to blend them. Okay, nice. Now, the interesting thing in this project that she has in the book here is the way she shows you how to highlight things. So you're not just covering an area like this. We're going to go back in and we're going to add those interesting dots and dashes and highlights. And that's what I love about her book is she's showing you more than just coloring. So this is not just an adult coloring exercise, right? There's a lot more to it. And as you go through her projects, you're going to learn the nuance of painting, basically. But I do like the way she breaks it down into the 4 easy steps and makes it, you know, easy bites. Okay, there we go. And then there's the bottom. And for me, there's always a lot of ice cream that's like, your ice cream, your ice reel looks better than hers. Thank you. It all depends on what colors you have available, right? Now, what I'm noticing from doing that is that there are little bitty bits. Can you see that? Can you see the little bits there? And so what I have to do is I like to use my palette knife and I'm gonna huff on it, meaning I'm gonna get it a little bit uh, kind of warm and that way these little bits will stick to it. Okay. So as I go through the layers, I will oftentimes stop and pull up the little bits so I don't have bits everywhere getting in the way. There's one right there. I don't want to have bits in the way because the bits are what can go into another area of your painting and cause a problem in another area of your painting. Okay, so that took, oh, I see a little bit more in the way of bits here. Now, as you keep going and building layers, you may want to build up texture. So you may not want to pull off of there, but in the beginning layers, I find that I like to use the palette knife to get those little bits off. Okay, another thing that you can use to get the bits off is one of these, which is a kneaded eraser. The only thing is that it won't take long before your kneaded eraser gets full of bits of paint. And as you're lifting, you may end up depositing as much, and then you have to throw this away. These are cheap, so that may be your preferred method is just to go in like this and pick up any little bits. Just realize that you can't clean this. This will end up very quickly in short order having to be thrown away. But they are rather inexpensive, so that may be a better option for you. Actually, I see I have some on my book right here. So I got some bits on my book. All right, so now we've got our initial layer there. And you can see here, she has some dark brown. She has a dark brown along the edge there. So she's using that dark brown as her highlight. So let's get this really, she actually used a bit of a darker color. So let's come in here and go over top of that yellow. There we go. Now she actually used brown along the edges here, kind of over top of that yellow, because the cone is going to be sort of that yellowy brown, right? Oop. There we go. And then now if I wanted to get that line smoothed, because it was a little bit rough, then I'm going to take my blending stump and I'm going to blend that line like that. And then that just makes the line look a little bit smoother, because some people prefer that look, like it sort of fills that all in. Okay, you don't have to do that, but some people prefer that look. And then I'm actually going to use the darker, and I'm going to fill in some darker here because I want it to look a little more rich and yummy. We think of, at least I do, I think of my art supplies like food, like how yummy the color is. Uh, I describe colors as yummy all the time. Okay, so I want to get some of this. It's okay to layer and get complexity in there. That's what I'm doing. I already have the base light layer. Now I'm layering another layer a little bit darker. And now I have lots of little bits. Can you see all the little bitty bits there? So I'm just going to do this. It's depending on the pigment. So it's the pigment that makes up the color. All right. Not necessarily the binder. It can also be the pigment that's used to make these various colors. Oftentimes will determine how crumbly it is. So a lot of times the manufacturers can't help that it's crumbly. You know, they're trying to make a consistent formula, but the pigments are not always consistent. So the pigments, like this one, is causing lots of bits. There we go. But you see how convenient it is to have your palette knife handy, and then you can just scrape those bits gently off. Fab. And then here, there's just a little bit. So I'm going to use this. I'm just going to go over it with this to get them all up. Nice. Okay, fab. And then we're going to go with some more of that like chocolatey brown. And what she does is she lays in some little bit of contrast here between the green. So you can see like shadows underneath there. And then she's going to, now I've decided that I want to make that yellow. Remember that yellow was an outline with a hard wax oil pastel, right? So it's a very light line because I was just sketching. So what I want to do right now is I want to come in with a heavier yellow before I put the little details in with the dark brown. You see the details there? So let's do this. Oops, I want the yellow first. I'm gonna put it on its side. Yeah, there we go. Now the yellow, this yellow is a little more bold. It's gonna show up. Yellow is one of the opposite colors from purple on the color wheel, which is why, and plus I love green with purple. If I show you the color wheel, so here's a color wheel, and violet and yellow are opposite each other on the color wheel. You see that? There you've got the yellow, and then you've got the violet. So when they're across from each other on the color wheel, it means that they look great next to each other. But they don't look good when you mix the two colors together, but they look good when they're next to each other like this. So that's why I chose a purple background. Yeah, because I knew I was going to be working with yellow, and I love green and purple together. That's one of my favorite color combinations. Okay, good. So this is giving that a little more oomph, right? Fabulous. Okay, so that yellow gave it a little bit more oomph there. And then let's go in here with this brown. And then what she does is she kind of goes into these corners and makes little marks to sort of delineate the corners. There we go. Just to add a little bit of detail. That's why I said I really like a book like this, because then you learn some interesting like highlighting techniques from an artist that probably does a little more painting than you in that particular medium, especially if you're just learning the medium. Okay, there we go. Just sort of making marks there to make it look more yummy, 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 yummy. Let's do that. And then she puts a little bit of a shadow down in here, makes it a little thicker. There we go. Whoop. Okay, I think I'm going to call that done. But there you go. That's the pistachio ice cream on a purple background. So it really makes it sing on the purple background. There, I see that I need a little bit more yellow right there. And a little more yellow right there. I'll probably come back and touch it up later too, but now you've got the general idea. Plus, it's nice when you have an interesting color like this background and it can pop through in certain areas. You don't have to, when you have a background color, you don't have to try so hard to cover the whole thing. But there is an oil pastel ice cream. What? Amazing. Okay. Now we're going to do a quickie landscape so I can show you the puffy clouds, because I adore the puffy clouds. So I'm going to take another one of these. Let's use one of these from the book. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. Oopsies. From this book of the gray tone. Oh my gosh, that's so pretty. Let me move these other papers out of the way so I don't damage my other artworks. There we go. And we're going to work with the Neo Pastels and the Sennelier for this, because the Sennelier is a little softer than these Pentels. And so you can get um, the uh, the more texture out of the Sennelier. Now, before I do that, I just noticed I did this whole painting right here using the Pentel. So, like I said, the Pentel is the least expensive of all the ones that I showed earlier, and yet it's a lot of fun. And you can do projects like this right out of a book like this, Oil Pastel Masterpieces in 4 easy steps. But let's see if we have some of the, because I like this yellow green right here of the Van Gogh. So let's go in here with the yellow green and just lay a little bit of the yellow green in. Remember how I said sometimes if there's already a lot of color that you have to use kind of the dotting method to get your colors to go down. There, that's even a little more pistachio-y, isn't it? Love that. Okay, let's go here. Do a little bit more of that pistachio look. Now it really looks like a pistachio. So these Van Gogh are a little softer than than those Pentel, and so they will tend to work better as a top layer. Nice. Okay, awesome. Well, it looks very pistachio-y right now. Yay. So that's the Van Gogh. Let's put the Van Gogh away like that. I like the Van Gogh as a starter set also, because there you get so much paint with it. So you see there, this is 24 sticks and they're big sticks, whereas the Pentel is small sticks. You see there, but you get more colors, you get 36 colors. So it depends on how much you plan on really working it out and trying it out, which one you would want to start with. Okay, but these are my recommended starter sets. And then let's move into the Neo Pastel and the Sennelier, because those are the finer, what I would call the more expensive and the finer sets. So, oh, I love that. I want to eat that right now. Please, I want to eat it. Okay, so this is the concept that we're going for. We're just going to do this part. We're not going to do the wave part, but the way that we're going to create these clouds impasto, very thick, is the same technique that I used for the wave. Okay, so let's get the toned paper. Bypass pistachio ice cream. I want to eat you right now. Oh, by the way, to sign my artwork, I often will use. Oh, what was the artist's name on the book? The artist's name is Anna Kola Kola. I think it's Koladiach. Kolia Koliadic, something like that. Koliadic. Um, yeah, Anna Koliadic. Now, the YouTube video later tonight, I will go in and I will put a link to this book um, on my YouTube video. So if you go to my YouTube channel, you just type in Tristina, Tristina. It's actually Tristina Dietz Elms Artist is my YouTube channel. But if you just type in Tristina, an artist, you'll find me on YouTube. Yes, thank you. I appreciate it very much, Florida Glass Girl. If you use my link, that would be awesome. I do appreciate you. Oh, all right. So, um, what I was going to say is oftentimes I like to sign these. The Pentel are nice and small, and they're easy to sign with because they have a lot of those sharp edges, right? But in the paintings that have a lot more creaminess to them, I like to use these crayons because it's so much easier to draw with the crayons, right? So I'm going to use this green crayon and I'm going to sign it right. Yeah, let's see. It's easier to write with the crayon. 20, 24. Think. There we go. So now that's signed, right? That's how you know it's done, is when you sign it. Okay, awesome. Now, if you want to be sure, like I said, you can store this artwork with glassine. And normally you would want to put this behind glass, but you would store it with the glassine on top. But as a stopgap until you have some glassine, you can use wax paper. It's just not acid free, so you shouldn't use it for a long period of time. But if you just need to put something on it and set it aside until you can either put it in a frame or until you get your glassine out, that's a quick way to do it to protect the surface. But you can also take it outside and spray it with an oil pastel fixative. So a fixative means that it'll lock that oil pastel into place and protect it so that it won't get damaged if something touches it. Okay. But there are only a couple of oil pastel fixatives on the market. This is my favorite, which is the Sennelier oil pastel fixative, but there are other fixatives you can find for oil pastels as well. So just take it outside. I would spray it in one direction like this. You don't spray directly on your artwork, you spray up and out like this, and you let it gently fall down onto your artwork. And then I would wait 15 minutes, and then I would turn it 90 degrees like this. And then again, I would spray straight out like this and let it fall down onto the artwork like that. So it's a lot easier to do when it is not like crazy windy outside, right? A lot easier to do. Okay, so let's do the landscape on some toned paper here. And whew, So let's see, what color do we want to use? Oh my goodness. So there's this taupey color. The drama. Let's do the drama of the darker taupe, the darker color. Okay. Oops. So this is a toned paper. I believe it's acid free. It's an artist paper for dry media. And let's see if it says here. Huh, it doesn't. Sketch paper pad for artists. Okay, and it's 81 pounds or 120 GSM. And so it's relatively light. It's not a heavy paper, but it's perfect for doing sketches and experimentation on. Okay, so let's go ahead and get out. This is my happy place right here. Okay, my happy space. And I'm actually going to bring this out a little bit so that you can, blink. There you go. So you'll be able to see a little bit better what I'm working with there. There are my feathers. I love my feathers. Okay, so we can put those out there and you can see, oops, once I open it, what I'm working with, right? There you go. Oh, heavenly, heaven, 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 heaven. So this is, oh, I put it in the wrong place, didn't I? Because this is supposed to be like blue green. What color do they call this one? Turquoise. There it goes, and with the blues. So you can see I've got mine separated. I've got yellows and oranges. I've got browns in here, browns and grays. I have my blues, all different kinds of blue. Then these are greens. This is my reds and purples. And over here, I have my white, which of course we're going to be using for clouds, as well as some metallics. So there's a silver metallic, there's a gold metallic. This one is a stunning purple metallic. So yeah, in Sennelier, you can get metallic colored oil pastels and they're so yummy. Actually, I'm going to bring you up just a little bit. There, that's better. Mo better, right? Let's bring this down. Good. Everything, you can still see everything clearly. Okay, so we're going to start out actually with some blues. And let's see. Ooh, do I want to do it that way or do I want to do it that way? That's always the question, right? When you're doing a landscapey thing. Okay, let's start out with sort of a sandy look. Um, so sand is going to be in this area. Yes, there we go. Now, when you're working on a darker paper, what will show up better is your lighter colors. So if I have a choice between, for instance, this one and this one for kind of a sandy color, I'm going to go with the lighter one, right? On a darker background. If I was working on a lighter paper, I might go with the darker one. Okay, so let's just put in a kind of a foreground. And these are super creamy. Actually, I'm starting with the Sennelier and I should be starting with this one. I don't have all the colors in the Neo color. So let's see, what do I have for Neo color? The Neo color is a little bit harder. So that's why I like to start out with Neo color if I have the Neo color. I don't have the Neo color in that. Let's see. I have this Neo color. There, that's not too bad. That's not too far off, right? It's a little more orangey, a lot more orangey, isn't it? The reason that I'm starting out with the Neo color is that it is the harder of the two between Neo color and Sennelier. So it's a little bit, it can be difficult to layer Neo color on top of Sennelier because the Sennelier just slides everywhere. Okay, and then we're going to bring this on top of there. So I'm literally just blending colors right on the surface here. Okay. And then I'm going to put that. A lot of times while I'm working, if I'm working with certain colors, I will leave them out so that I know which colors I've worked with already. Um, If I'm doing it on my own, I will have a little tray next to me and I will put the artwork in the tray over there. Okay, so let's see what is the next colors to work with. Let's go just a slightly darker than that. So something sort of sandy like this. Um, as we get closer to us, the colors get more intense. The colors that are farther away are going to be, they're going to get lighter as we progress. And now what I want to do is sort of blend this together just a little bit. And I could use my fingers to do this, which a lot of people just dive right in and they go like this with their fingers, and that's okay. Okay, awesome. Now I had a little bit of green right there, the rogue green from somewhere. So I'm using the end of my palette knife to just take it up, and then I'll put a little bit more over top of there. So I just got rid of the green just like that by lifting it. Okay. Now let's do some sky. How are we going to do the sky? No, let's do some land. So I'm going to start out with a darker than that, actually. Some brown. So right near the bottom here. And we're going to be adding some more colors there. So yes, I grabbed the Sennelier. Let's do this one here. What you'll find is that the Neo color, because it is slightly harder, it will push some of the Sennelier out of the way, but that's okay. It's all right. We're just playing right now, right? So we've got some land in the distance. Now we're going to build that up with some green. Look at that Neo pastel. Beautiful color. That's kind of a, now what I'm going to say about this color that I'm using right now of Neo color, this color is a mid-tone color. So we have light colors, dark colors, and mid-tones. And this paper is between mid-tone and toward the dark. Okay, it's not dark, it's kind of a mid-tone. So what you're going to notice is as I'm working on it, you see how this green almost disappears on that background. And that's because this is a mid-tone and the paper is a dark mid-tone. Okay, so let me just bring some of this in here. So we're gonna have to darken that a little bit, but that was, ooh, that's kind of fun. Maybe I'll use that later. Um, let's get a little bit darker green in there. Blend it. So when I work with oil pastels, I like the fact, and also dry pastels. I like the fact that it's your hand going straight to the paper and creating a shape, a line. It could be a curve, it could be a dash, it could be dots. Okay, there are all these different ways. And so you get to use your hand to give the suggestion of, say, some topography here. Okay. And then let's get into something a little bit darker, like a darker green, like a real true green from the Sennelier. Oh, that's like, woo, that's a little too much, isn't it? But that's okay. We're allowed because we're playing. Okay. And then, so here are the colors that I've been working with. And then I am going to take my palette knife and I'm going to mix up the color a little more thickly. Let's use a darker. Is that a nice dark green? Yeah. Oh, ooh. Yeah, it's a little artificial. I don't like that green. It's not very natural, you know? Um, okay. So let's take this green, which is, yeah, a warmer green. And I'm gonna whack off a little bit of it. So don't be afraid to use your color. Just whacked off some of it. And then what else am I going to do? I'm going to whack off some of the blender, right? And I'm going to blend it in. There we go. So I want this color to become a little more creamy. That's why I use the blender with it. Oh yeah, nice. We're getting there. We're getting there. So if you want to do impasto or you want to do thicker applications, this is what you're doing. Your various types of blenders are going to come in. They're going to be essential. If you want to work with a palette knife to get some extra pizzazz, some extra attention in there. Oh, that is so pretty. Wow, y'all. I don't know if you can see it. Just got here. Okay, so there you go. We've got some nice dark, and I'm going to apply it with my palette knife. So don't be afraid. If you want to get that extra texture going, you're going to use a palette knife to pick it up. Okay, so you see all that texture on the bottom there? Wow. Okay, let's kind of put it in this area. Okay. Whoa. All right. So now we've got some extra like dramatic texture going in there. Let's do it. We're kind of like them following along with a mountain, right? And it's okay to let those other colors sort of show through the background. This is not about being precise. This is about relaxing, breathing, having fun, building in that extra texture. Wow, that is so fun. Can you see that extra texture in there now? Yeah. Now, oil pastels are notorious for not drying. They don't dry, okay? Um, it's the type of oils that they put in it that it will always be sticky, which is why when someone buys an oil pastel, they need to put it in a frame behind glass. It's not just like my soft pastels. Like this is a soft pastel painting, and this is going to have to go behind glass. An oil painting, you don't have to put behind glass. An acrylic painting, like this is an acrylic mixed media painting, that doesn't have to go behind glass. All right. But your pastel paintings need to go behind glass. If you Oh, thank you, Dan. The breaking news man is back this week, and he said that my videos are good and he enjoys my teaching. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. In 2025, I'm going to be doing a lot more like 10 and 15-minute videos on my channel as well, more produced, not the lives. So, I mean, I'm still going to do lives, but then I'll be doing those as well. So, with this, now let's look at the sky. And because we have this midtone in the background, I don't have to worry too much about creating midtones, right? Because I can let the paper do the work for me. So normally the sky is darker at the top and lighter as you go down to where it meets um, the edge. So let's see what we have. Let's see what neo colors we have. Okay, this one, nice. This sort of a teal. This one, oh, it's fabulous. Fabulous. And then look at this gorgeous sennelier we have to put on top of it. And then maybe we'll even try this sennelier right here, which is a pearlescent one. Fab. Okay, so let's start out with this one at the top here. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to create a direction for the sky. And then I'm going to be going on top of it with my clouds. So I'm just going to let's start with the lighter color in here. And let's say that I want it to kind of go in this direction like this, because oftentimes when you look at the sky, the clouds you'll find because of the wind, they're going in a particular direction, right? It's not just straight. It's not just, sometimes there's a haze. Hey, thanks, lovable monster over on whatnot. I appreciate you sharing link to the show. After we're done here, I'll have a giveaway and then we'll do the auction of some of my finished artworks. But this right now is the oil pastel um, workshop. So now this is a little too dark. Too dark, y'all. Too dark. Let's see. Now, since it's too dark, in my opinion, to lay this directly down, now I'm going to put some of it on top here, which is okay. It's okay at the top, but in between, like this should be a little more fuzzy up here, right? Fuzzy wuzzy. So what I'm going to do in order to create a transition between the two is I'm going to put some white in there. So this is my white. I'm going to clean it because as you can see, there's some red on there, or purple from the last time I used it. Okay, so we're gonna knock in a little bit of white here. And do you see how the white combines with the blue? I'll bring it up closer for you in a minute, but I'm sort of filling in. Now, I don't want too much white because I'm going to be dropping the white clouds on there, okay? But I am just putting a little bit of white in there in order to create a transition between these two colors. So let's put a little bit more of this in here in the direction of the clouds. Okay, there we go. Right up into that white. And then, isn't this fun? See how what I like is the immediacy of pastels, whether it's the dry pastels or the oil pastels. You put your hand on a color and there it is. Okay, so now we're going to put a little bit of blue in here with the white, just a little bit. And I'm moving the blue very lightly over there in order to just get a blending. Now, um, you can use a chamois. Oh, Critter Chops rated. Thank you, Critter Chops. Thank you, thank you. We're doing oil pastels today. And so you can use a chamois cloth, which is great. You can use a very soft cotton cloth, like an old t-shirt. In this case, I don't have my old t-shirt piece nearby, so I'm going to use a paper towel. And I'm just sort of blending those together. I'm softening it a little bit because I'm going to come back on with my white impasto for the clouds. Okay. I don't want to lose the direction of my strokes. I still want the strokes to appear because I like my artwork to show the hand of the artist, but I could build up, 5 different layers and then smooth the layers and you won't show as much of the hand of the artist here. But I like the hand of the artist to show myself. So I'm gonna blend this together just a little bit. And then we're gonna work on some clouds. Woo! Okay, there we go. I could have done that with my finger if I wanted to, but and it gets really messy, really messy. My fingers are already dirty. Okay, so here we go. Now I'm seeing some little bits on there. So before I go in and put the clouds on, I'm going to take a different palette knife and I'm going to lift up the little bits and put them into my paper towel. Do you see how dramatic the sky looks with that gray background? Oh, so pretty. Okay, I'm just making sure that if there are any stray bits, then I'm picking them up right now so they don't get into my other colors. Okay, nice. Now you can also hold it up like this and look at it. All right, the blending helped to avoid that. All right. And looks like the Northern Lights, right? Florida Glass Girl, yes. See, there's a little one right there. Okay, good, good, good. It looks like I got the bits. Now let's go ahead and create some, we're gonna start with white for the clouds. And then, clouds aren't just white, right? They have sometimes gray in them, sometimes purple in them, sometimes pink in them. So we're going to get to that after we develop the clouds themselves. So I could go in just with my white and try to build up clouds. Let's determine where we want our clouds first of all. So I'm going to go in with the white and sort of figure out cloud placement. Okay. Here. Now it's not going to be exact. I'm going to end up changing it a little bit once I get my palette knife in there, but I'm just giving myself an idea of where I want the clouds to be. And a little wisps up here. Okay. And maybe a smaller cloud because this is further in the distance, right? Way down here is further in the distance, and up here it's closer to us. Okay, and then let's do another sort of middle. Okay. So because I pressed that layer underneath in by blending it, it's a lot easier for me to put some of the white on top. Let's do another little wispy cloud right here. And another wispy cloud right here. And another little one, sort of little one right back in here. Okay, so that's just to give me an idea of the placement of the clouds. Now I'm going to whack off a piece of this white right here like this. And what am I going to do with it? And you're going to use your whites up quickly. I was thinking today, oh my gosh, I need to get myself some more white Sennelier sticks. You can just order just the white because you tend to use white a lot. Um, will I be doing a color pencil tutorial? I'm being asked by Dan, the breaking news man. I was thinking about that recently because I have my favorite brand of colored pencils, which is their Derwent Color Soft. And I might put that on my schedule. Probably be 3 or 4 weeks from now. Um, but yeah, oh, normally I put on the community notes for my channel what my upcoming workshop is, but I have to admit I forgot for this particular show, but I will remember to put it in there so that you will see ahead of time, a couple days ahead of time when it's scheduled. Okay. Dan, the breaking news man on YouTube. All right. So what did I just do? I took the blender. All right. The nice thing about the blender is it's a transparent medium and it's kind of soft. So it's perfect for combining with your various colors to make them a little more um, malleable. That's what I like to use it for. So that's why, get to start out, get yourself the smaller sticks like this size. But once you're doing more work, if you like the impasto look, which means the thick look to this medium, then I would definitely consider getting the large um, medium if the brand that you're getting it from has it, the blender. Okay. Oh, this is so much fun. And as you work with the oil pastel, it'll get a little gummier, which is good. It won't be quite so dry when you add the medium into it. Okay, nice. Now I tend to use a smaller palette knife like this to, if I'm working in a small area, if I'm working in a larger area, I'll use a larger palette knife. I even have, let me see where that I love this palette knife. This is an Italian palette knife because you can pick up a small amount, and I'm going to use my finger here and I'm going to work it in to this area because why? I want this to be a smaller cloud. I don't want this to be a large cloud. So I need a smaller palette knife in order to be able to do that. Oh my gosh, y'all, that is so fun. You see how thick that is? Oh, fabulous. Now, when these paintings that have the thicker paint on them are put behind glass, um, you need to make sure that it's not touching this texture is not touching the glass. So sometimes it's enough to take two mats. So instead of just using one mat, which will lift it off about zero point 0.2 inches, if you use two mats, so you double up your mats, you can often get enough height to be able to put it into the painting and not have to get like one of those super thick um, painting frames that will hold it back. Oh, these are so fun to paint with. Fabulous, 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 fabulous texture. Now I'm going to turn this around because I actually want to sort of pull this out a little bit in order to get some interesting edges to it. Eek. There we go. Now I can play with that. If I go, oh, I didn't like that, then I just fix it. Okay. And let's do this because it is likely that it comes up just a little bit. Now, a little tiny bit just went where I didn't want it. So you can use either your palette knife like this to pick that off of there. You know, I try to take it off as soon as possible so I don't combine it with a bunch of other stuff. There we go. So now that corrected that. Let's go with a little bit bigger clouds, right? So I'm getting it on the bottom of my palette knife. You can put your finger on the palette knife to make it a little stiffer. Oh, like this is the best part, y'all. I when I saw the artist, I'll put a link in my YouTube video to the artist that I learned this technique from, where I did this wave painting. Oh my gosh. When she showed this technique, I'm like, I never thought of that for. Are you kidding me? That is so cool. So yeah, even after painting for 20 some years, I still learn. We can all still learn from each other. Okay, there's some more. And yeah, now I'm not going to do the whole thing because it'll be boring for you to sit here and watch me build this one, this one, this one, this one. Okay. But what I am going to do is I'm going to show you how I bring in those other colors to the clouds, because I normally clouds underneath the clouds. And the nice thing, by the way, oil pastel, I can leave it on here and come back to it tomorrow. And most likely it will still be, if it's a good quality oil pastel like these Senneliers, it will likely still be malleable. Or I can just whack off a little bit of this medium, put it in there again, and it'll still be malleable. It's not like acrylic, which, you know, dries and then there's nothing you can do with it. So I can come back to that paint tomorrow. Let me just get as much off of there as I can. So I'm preserving what I already mixed. All right, now let me show you how I add the color at the bottom of it. I love doing that. So I'm going to take a softer one, the softest one that you have. If you don't have soft versus hard, you know, do what you can with what you have. But I like to take the softer ones, like it is. Let's see. What color do we want to put under there? I kind of like a grayish purplish kind. Ooh, there's a nice. Now, see, this one is a little bit harder. So that's kind of a pink. I think it's way too pink. Way too pink. Okay, let's see this one right here. That's a little too dark. Okay, we're going to go with this one right here, which is like a middle purple. Okay, so, oh, can I pull it up close? Yes, yes, of course. Sorry about that, Florida Glass Girl. There it is up close. And then do you see the texture? Oh, incredible texture. Just love it. Just love it. Okay. So let's take this purple, and I don't want too much of it because it's quite dark. So I'm going to use this method of just sort of tapping it. Okay. I'm going to tap it in there because you can blend it after you've tapped it. Okay. So I'm just tapping it to add a little bit And now the ones in the background, I think are going to be even lighter than this. So let's see if I have like a super, you know what I have is this incredible lilac pearlescent. Let's do the lilac pearlescent back here. Now what it's doing is it's lifting some of the paint. Ah! So let's just put it there. It's all crumbly. It's all crumbly. Sometimes you can just use your finger and push it in. But okay, let's go back to this one. So I'm putting a little bit of purple in there. And then what about gray? We have some grays in here, right? Oh, there's a nice, no, that's a green gray. Gross. Gross. I want a gray like this. That's kind of like a lilac gray. And I'm tapping, 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 tapping to get it in there, okay? And I'm kind of combining it with that purple. Okay. And then a little bit of it here. Tap, 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 tap to get it in the area where you want it. Tap, 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 tap. Gray. And then I like pink in my clouds. There's just something about it. I just love pink in my clouds. So here's some pink. I'm just gonna tap a little bit of pink because I like it. It's me, you know? We have to do what makes us happy with our artwork. And it's my artwork, so I'm allowed, right? I'm allowed. Let's do a little bit of, I'm bringing the pink out just a little bit, like, maybe there's a little trail of pink there. And let's put a little trail of pink right there. Okay, so I've got white all over here. So I'm going to wipe that off before I put it back in my bin there. Okay, that's better. Ah, no, I'm going to leave it right there in case I need more. Okay, so now this is where having a good, a tiny. So you want to use your smaller blending stump like this. Now, what do you do if you have color on the blending stump and you're afraid to put it on your surface? You don't want to get the color on there. One thing you can do is rub it on your paper like this. You see how much residual color was on there? I would have been mad if that green got onto my clouds. So the other thing you can do is just take a piece of sandpaper. This happens to be a sandpaper block. And these paper stumps are made to be used like this. So I'm just using it on the sandpaper until there's no more color coming off on it. There we go. And now no color. Hey, okay, so just use a piece of sandpaper. Any sandpaper will do. And you just want to rub it along the sandpaper. Eventually, these stumps get smaller and smaller and smaller as you're using it. But now there's no color on there. Yay. So now I can come in because it's a smaller stump and I can just work around and blend that purple into there and get the shape that I want out of that cloud. Right? So let's do that one. And then I'll come in here. Woo. You can push this impasto around a little bit if you want to. Blend it up into it. There we go. A little bit of that white. And then here, we'll blend some of that pink in with that. Some of the purple up in it. So you can adjust the way that your clouds look, the texture in your clouds. You can sort of blend these colors in with your blending stump. If I tried to go in there with my finger, it would be too big. My finger's too big for that. Now, if I look and I go, oh my gosh, there's like a little bit too much purple there. I don't like it. It's too much, too much, too much. Well, I can pick a little bit of it up with my blending stump and I can move it somewhere else if I want it somewhere else. So that's one thing you can do with it. You literally are picking it right up and putting it elsewhere. You see why I'm saying you have to have the stump? I mean, to me, the stump is essential with the oil pastels. Okay. Now, if I feel like it's too much, I can use I can even use my palette knife and I can pick a little bit of it back up to move it out of there. All right. And then I can come back in with a little bit of that white and maybe build up a little bit of white around it to get some wispiness going. A little bit here. Again, I'm tapping with the white. So the purple's there, but there's a little bit of white wispiness on top. Okay. Oh, life is good, y'all. Life is good. Okay. So I'm going to bring it up. Now, this is a mess, but you just clean it right on here, just like that. There you go. And then I'll put that back in there, ready for the next thing to do. Oh my gosh. Look at these. Look at these. Can you see them? They're so pretty. And so that's how you can build a cloudscape on top of that beautiful background. And the gray of the paper just sort of ties it all together. And I will finish this, and next week you'll be able to see it. Okay, you'll be able to see the finished artwork once I work with it some more. I'm not going to put you through that for all the clouds, but I am going to go ahead and clean up. I love working with these pastels, the Sennelier and the like I said, these neo pastels are a little bit harder, but they're a good complement for each other. They do work well together. All right, which one is that? Green, green, blue, green, blue, green, green, pink. And then there's my big old blender right there, right? Okay, and you see what I mean about how this case just holds everything so beautifully like that? In my color families. Now, a lot of people prefer to leave them in the original box that they came in, kind of like this, so that it keeps them separated and clean and you can see what you have. There's something to be said for that. Yes, there is. But, also when I'm in the throes of creation, having a container like this works fine for me. So that is it for this part of the show, which is the lesson part of the show.